My name is David, and this is The Big Shut-In. It is Tuesday, June the 30th, 2020, and here in New York City, the school year officially ended last Friday, which means that now it is summer vacation. And I don't know what that means. And I think most parents really don't know what that means. Now, this weird kind of attempt at online learning of plunking elementary school age children in front of computers on the kitchen table and telling them that they were at school now, which, at least for us, never really worked, is now over. And now the kids who have been home are home now, and here we all are. And so I thought this was a good moment to check in once again with Lindsey, who, if you remember, is a fourth grade teacher and mother of twin first graders in Brooklyn. And we spoke to her right at the beginning of this kind of online learning adventure about her thoughts and fears and apprehensions and hopes for the rest of the school year. And now that we've come to the end of that, she really does have a lot to say about what that was like and how it went and what she was able to accomplish and not accomplish. And also a lot to say about this giant looming question mark that she and I and all parents are staring at for the fall of what is going to happen. What are we going to do? Are we just going to be here more? Are we going to send the kids somewhere else? And what will that look like? Because frankly, no one seems to know. And all of the ideas that are being presented are flawed, to say the least. They're really sort of half an idea at best. And so let's go talk to Lindsey now and get our end of the year report card for 2020 and see if we can figure out something about what's going on and what might be next.
So what's up, David?
How are you?
I'm good. As good as can be expected.
Well, how good is that?
I'm okay. We had it was the last day of school on Friday.
Yeah.
And so I've had 2 days of summer vacation, I guess. I don't know. It doesn't feel much different.
No, it sure doesn't. I want to hear about how you're doing, and I really want to hear about school and kind of how that went. Like, how do you feel about this school year now that it's over?
Well, it's funny. The last day of school for me is always a little bit sad, right? Like it's exciting to see the end of the year, and it's exciting to like celebrate everything that we've done over the year. The last week of school is also really fun because you're like, there's very little learning happening. You're packing up your classroom, and the kids are helping you to clean things and pack things away. And there's like, you're watching movies and you're celebrating the beginning of summer together. And it feels it's always a week I look forward to because you just feel your community that you've built over the year. And because everyone is pitching in, and because it's not a lot of academic stuff and it's all social, emotional, end of the year stuff, it's kind of this beautiful week. So that was really hard to just not have that. And I tried to do a little bit of it, just like, we're going to make a memory book. All writing this week is going to be writing about your favorite memories of fourth grade. And, we had a classroom celebration, but it was on Zoom. So it's like, bring a treat if you've got one, and we'll play some games and I'll show a slideshow, but it just doesn't, it's not anywhere near what the end of the year normally is. So that was just very sad. I was happy to see the end of remote learning for this school year. But I had a great group of kids, and it was just, I hated not being able to have that last week of memories with them.
I mean, how do you feel remote learning went? Do you think, like,
Ah.
how do you feel about the amount of learning that happened
Well,
remotely?
it just really depends. I think that a lot of kids did a lot of great learning. I think that there were definitely kids who didn't, and that happened for various reasons. 4th grade is interesting. The kids are all either 9 or 10 right now. They come to you as 8-year-olds, and they leave you as almost 5th graders, and they do a lot of growing in that year. But really, they're still little, and maybe 7 of my kids really were just independent, going on every day, making sure that they were getting things done. Another probably 10 of them, 8 or 10 of them, were going on every day and doing things, but it was not independent. Like, it was very clearly parent led in a lot of ways. And then there were kids who just never really did any work. And that group is the one that breaks my heart, because a lot of it is just because they didn't have access. A lot of it is just that, like, I had one kid who, she had to watch her brother every day, and her brother's in 1st grade, and he's got ADHD, and, like, so her hands are full. Her mom's at work. Another kid had to leave his apartment every day
Wow.
and go to work with his dad. So it was just, there were a
So
lot of different
a
needs.
9 or 10-year-old babysitting a 7-year-old every
Yeah,
day?
exactly, absolutely. And mom would be mom had to go to work, single mom. So she was a very responsible 10-year-old.
I
Um,
guess.
but yeah, she was in charge of her brother during the day. And so they also had one device between them. So if little brother needed to log into a meeting for his 1st grade classroom, then my student wasn't able to do any work during that period of time. Um, and I feel, it's a lot of families were dealing with stuff that's, just problems with resources, and those are the families who already were having trouble with school. And then this is just furthering this gap that already exists. And, moving these kids further away from, where we hope that they would go at the end of 4th grade.
I mean, that's something that's been, I think, apparent to me and maybe underreported, is
Mhm.
how the difference in I hate to use the word class because it's not such a nice word, but
Mhm.
um, people in different economic strata, the difference in how they're dealing with this and what the resources they have. I mean, what a luxury being able to quarantine is. To be able to stay home with your kids and not have to go work.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely. And it's, a lot of it does have to do with money, and it does have to do with
uh,
the resources your family has in general. But then there's also, you know, um, single parents were hit upon really hard as well. And you can have all the resources in the world, but if you've got 3 kids and you're a single mom, there's just you're not there. It's so interesting what this period of quarantine did for families. Each one of those kids going to school in separate classrooms, and mom going to work, like, great, everybody has the same access to resources, and maybe even more. Like, if this is like, imagine this family to be a family with lots of resources. But then all of a sudden, here's quarantine, and now this mom is cooped up with no access to babysitters or daycare or childcare of any kind. She's trying to do her job. All 3 kids need to be doing schoolwork. If, 1 or 2 of the kids are very small, then they are not independent. As you and I know, like, 1st grade
yeah,
is not an independent grade. Like, they're not doing all of that on their own.
or
Um,
any of it really.
yeah, no, no, none of it. Um, so it definitely was families who were already not who already didn't have access in a lot of ways. But then there were all these other families who all of a sudden were also kind of put in under these like hardship conditions.
I mean, it strikes me too that fourth grade is you'll learn a lot in fourth grade.
Yeah.
I think. I mean, I don't really, but I feel like that's really a formative age for like reading and math and writing and spelling and all this stuff. Yeah, I mean, do you feel like? I mean, it sounds like when you say the rest of them either just weren't able to do a lot of work, weren't able to log on. It seems like that's half your class, right? Um,
It was a
Give or
good
take.
portion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you worried about those kids like being able to handle fifth grade?
Well, I mean, the interesting thing is that this is across, I mean, not only the city, not only the country, but like kind of the world too. Like a lot of kids are just missing the end of this last year. And as we move forward, like thinking about my fourth graders, they're not going to be behind any other fourth graders. So we as teachers are going to have to change our expectations. Because at some point I and my school basically decided that yes, we need to move forward teaching new curriculum. But for probably the first 4 weeks, at least 4 to 6 weeks, we were just doing review and practicing things that we had already taught the kids because we just were still trying to wrap our heads around how to even teach content. So they definitely missed. They missed at least a month of content in fourth grade, and then the other month and a half, 2 months was content delivered via online platforms, which is just not. You can't move as quickly. They are not understanding as much. I can tell because I looked at their work. We didn't even get to decimals. Like I'm supposed to do that. They didn't do that. But neither did any other fourth grade teacher. And no kid is going into fifth grade right now with the basics of decimals in their minds. So it's just going to have to become a fifth grade standard. It's funny too because I've been saying for a long time that the standards are developmentally just a little inappropriate. I don't think we should be talking about decimals in fourth grade. Very honestly, I think that should be a fifth grade standard. So in a
Well, then
perfect world,
congratulations.
right? In a perfect world,
Huh.
we would just take all of the standards and walk them back a little bit. And I think that it would be really beneficial across the board if we did that. Um,
I mean, I guess my question is that what's going to happen, or is there just going to
no.
be a bigger gap between the kids who had really good devices at home and are going to have access to tutors and
Mhm.
are going to be able to close the gap, and the kids who aren't? Is that what's going to happen?
I
Are
think
you,
that we're gonna have to, at least for this next year, I think that like teachers are gonna have to backtrack. And I think that we all understand that. I am going to have to spend my summer educating myself a little bit. It's been 5 years since I taught third grade, but I'm going to have to remember the end of it so that I
oh,
can
geez, right, yeah.
rebuild it. And we all know that. And I do think teachers are all across the board going to do that because we just have to. I wish that it would just stay that way. I wish that it would just be okay. We've shifted forever and ever and ever, and it's not just this next year that all of a sudden we're going to move at, you know, 1.5 speed, which is just an impossibility in general, because I mean, I'm sure that we'll talk about next year as well, but that's just not going to happen. But I imagine at some point it's just going to go back to, well, these are fourth grade standards and they need to meet them, maybe not next year, maybe the year after, maybe the year after that. But at some point it's just going to be like, well, I hope they made it up. And then those kids are gonna just be even more left behind than they already were.
How do you feel like your class felt about all of this and about their end of fourth grade and about the quarantine and
It's so hard, like, so I would do small group meetings, with my kids. I did whole class meetings, but there's no way you're getting anybody's real thoughts on a whole class meeting. Like, they're too distracted, and there's so many kids there, and it's they're used to sharing in front of each other, but all of a sudden on a on a screen, it puts it into sharp relief that all of a sudden they're all looking at me and this is weird and I'm talking into microphone. I don't know. So that was impossible. The small groups were a little bit better, but even when I was one-on-one with kids, it was really hard for them to open up in this medium. It's much easier for me to understand what's going on with my kids when I see them in person. So a lot of that was just kind of a mystery to me. I was trying to figure it out, and we talked about it a lot. And they said all the things I'm used to hearing. I feel proud of myself for all the work that I did this year. I feel nervous about fifth grade. Will my teacher like me? Will I make friends? So it's a lot of it is just kids being resilient and being kids no matter what. But then, there's also this just extra air of sadness. And maybe it's just me projecting that onto them and they're fine. But it seemed like they were, you know, more anxious and more melancholic and a little bit less like summer's here and we're going to rule the school as fifth graders. Like you've got a lot of that usually in most years and not really this year.
I think you have such a great perspective on this because you were seeing it from both sides of the mirror, right?
Mhm.
As a teacher and as a parent. And um, your girls and my son are the same age. They all just finished first grade.
Mhm.
How do you feel that went for them?
Wow. Yeah. Um, I think it was as fine as it could be. I have definitely heard about kids who, you know, just rejected remote learning and learning from a parent at all. I've heard stories about kids who just like would not sit on a Zoom, kids who, they just had battle of wills with their parents every day. So we didn't, luckily, the girls are pretty compliant children.
Whew,
They like,
that must be
they
nice.
are.
I don't know what that's like at all. I
No,
really.
it is. It's great. So we're very lucky that they would to a certain point, obviously, until they started just getting like silly and weird and falling all over themselves. Like they would sit and do school with us, but then it was just a matter of like, well, what do we do? Like I've never taught. Like I said, it's been 5 years since I even taught third grade, and I've never taught lower than that. So I don't know. I realize I don't know how to teach a kid to read. I know how to teach a kid to read better, but I've never done that kind of teaching where you're like literally learning phonics and letter sounds and that sort of thing. So for us, a lot of it was like, whose Google slides do we look at today? Like, what writing project are we going to do with them? And then how do we teach them that? There wasn't a lot of there were here and there, but a lot of what we were getting was like read aloud videos, and then here and there we would get academic videos about writing or math or what have you. So we were making a lot of it up ourselves. And it was okay, but I don't know. At the end of the day, I'm not really sure how to assess my daughters because I don't teach first grade. So I think they've made progress. I really do. Emily has an IEP, which means an individualized education plan, and for her, we're pretty positive, although they can't test for it this early. That we think that she has dyslexia. So she was
Hmm.
getting a small group 3 times a week that was sort of just like more literacy work. So that was really good for her too. But kids, Violet wasn't getting that.
They're
A lot of
identical. They're identical twins, right?
yes,
Is
isn't it
that
fascinating?
isn't it? Is that common or usual for one
I have
kid to
no
be
idea.
dyslexic and another? Because
It's blowing my mind. Like I can't tell if Violet is and just is hiding it, or it'll come out later, or if it really is just it only got to one of them. But I mean, she mixes things up. She writes things backwards. She mixes up letters. Like it's all of the early signs of it are there. And with Violet, it's a lot fewer. She has more sort of every kid has some signs that could be interpreted as early signs of it, but she just she's just is more typically developing. I don't know, it's fascinating to me too.
wow, yeah. I mean, I just I don't know how. I also don't know how this year went. I'm trying to make sense of it, from my own perspective. I mean, for most of the learn at home period, they would assign 5, 6, 7 things a day, and we'd maybe do two of them. and that's how
Yeah.
it was usually math because he likes that better. So he's not reading and writing particularly well. But we did what we could do. So
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't
Yeah,
know.
that's the thing. Like, it seems to us like they made progress. I saw it, but then I don't know where they're supposed to be at the end of first grade. And I'm a teacher, and I don't know just because I don't teach that grade. I'm not that familiar with it. So families who don't have teachers at all, we're all just going in the dark. Like, I don't know. I have no idea. Is my kid doing okay? I don't know.
Well,
You
and
know.
and the assessment, from his teachers, and I think his teachers are very nice and very competent and very, but because we weren't handing in that much, I don't think they have any sense of where he is either.
Mm-mm.
So, I
No,
mean,
it really is. It's interesting. I was talking to somebody the other day. We were talking about next year. And for me, like, I'm going to change up the way that if we are all remote at the beginning of next year, which I personally think it is likely that we will be.
oh, please don't say that. You think so?
I do. I do. I think so. It's, there's three possibilities, right? There's the possibility that we're all remote. There's the possibility that we're just back in school, just like normal. I think that's really, really unlikely. And then there's this, like, all these blended learning scenarios. And I'm just like trying to, meaning there would be smaller groups, like cohorts of kids within my class. And I would see some of the class on some days and the other parts of the class on other days. So kids would be going in maybe 2 days a week, something like that. Or they would do 1 week at school, 1 week at home. There's lots of
how would
different
how would that
possibilities.
make sense? I mean, because
It
you'd still be
doesn't.
interacting with all of them,
Yeah,
so
it
you
doesn't.
would be a node of viral contamination anyway, right? I mean,
Yes, it's the teachers are still just as at risk as if all the kids were coming every day, I think. Although not quite, because you can space kids out in your classroom better, right? So if I've got half of my class there, then I can have fewer bodies in the space of my classroom. So that's the only reason that it would make sense. But it also, like, what do the kids do who are not sitting in front of you? Like, if I see half my kids Monday and Tuesday, then what do the other kids do, because I'm teaching the in-person kids during Monday and Tuesday? So, you know, it seems with this blended learning idea that teachers are going to be tasked now with doing the remote teaching that we have been doing, which has been, believe me, a full-time job. I have worked much harder during these last 3 months than I ever have before. So now we're going to be asked to do remote learning at the same time as we're doing in-person learning for half of our class. Like, it just seems like none of it seems possible. And it's still being talked about, and no one has any idea of what's going to actually happen. But we're also facing massive budget cuts, because of course we are. So there's already teachers getting excessed, which means that they go into a pool of teachers that are not assigned to a school. Our union is really strong, and it means they can't be fired outright, but it just means that they are not assigned anywhere. And there's a hiring freeze for next year, which means that if you hire anybody, then you have to hire from this pool of teachers not assigned to a school. But nobody's going to be hiring because of because everybody's having to access teachers, because we don't have no school has any budget. So if we were to actually do socially distanced learning, in a real way, in a way that was equitable, in a way that was fair for teachers, we would need lots and lots and lots more teachers. We would need people to take these extra cohorts of kids. They're like, well, we can use the cafeteria as learning space. And it's like, no, we can't. We don't have a teacher to teach there. We have enough teachers to teach in the rooms of this building. We don't have this magical cafeteria teacher, and we don't have any money to hire her or him. So it's just like none of these remote learning scenarios seem in any way feasible. I personally just think that it's just going to be all remote again. In 1918, they just didn't do a year of school. The kids just didn't go. Everybody just didn't go to school. And there wasn't remote learning. The teacher wasn't, coming by and giving them school books, and, like, no, just nobody did school for that year.
wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah. And in my mind, it's like this radical idea of like, let's just call it off. Like it's not working for anybody. Everybody hates it. Let's just call it all off. Let's just not do school next year. But I realize, also not going to happen.
Well, I mean, and I'll be honest too, from my perspective, I mean, everything's hard right now, right? Everything's impossible. But as 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 weird and as difficult and as inadequate and as imperfect as the remote learning was, at least it was something for us to do every day. At least there was a list of things that appeared every day. There's like, here's something you can do.
Yeah.
Because we've been through our place, we're out of things to do here. We're out of
Yeah.
things. There's nothing left to do.
My God,
So,
today the girls were literally like ransacking my closet and being like, "What's this? What's this?" And I'm like, "This is a weird old preschool workbook that you guys filled in one page of and like never went back to." And they were like, "Maybe this would be fun." I was like, "Oh my God, you guys are so bored. Summer's terrible." But yeah, it was
yeah,
something to do. It was something to, lead us, through the
gave some
through
kind
those
of shape
days.
to the day. You have a meeting at this time, because now
Mhm.
summer, it's just like, I don't know, coming up with things or screens or
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah, 2 days in and I'm like, "When does school start back up again?"
and when is it 5 o'clock again? Like, when
Yeah.
can we start? When are we opening the bar here? Um, but uh, it- how you doing generally? I mean, how are you guys?
Generally, we really are fine. We feel very, very lucky to have twins, because it's just 2 kids, they're the same age, they get along really well, and they get to play together all day long, so they
Yeah, that must be nice.
it's really when we first found out that we were having twins, that was, terrifying, and when they were babies, that was like a whole nightmare, but we feel very, very, very lucky with it during all of this because they can play together for hours and just like it's like weird imagination games where they've now made up character. I don't know. They are um it's very weird children but they in the exact same way. So it is wonderful.
That's awesome.
And it's they are bored and they are missing their friends like crazy and they're a little sad, but they're not we really are, we're managing. I find myself more anxious than anything else, just thinking about what this is going to look like going forward and next year of schooling and like how these incoming fourth graders and they seem like such babies when you leave your fourth graders that are now big kids and then you get these like they were third graders 10 minutes ago and they're very scared of the academic work of fourth grade and it's like thinking about that class of kids next year that makes me anxious because we want to do our very best for these kids and none of it is it's just an impossibility to replicate school in any meaningful way.
I find myself getting angry a lot lately. Do you
Mm.
find angry happening? I like
Yeah.
at the country,
Yeah.
at
Oh
at
yeah.
Florida.
Yes. Yeah. I again like feel very lucky that we live in a place where most people, not all people, but most people are, taking it seriously and staying inside and wearing the masks and all the stuff. But then, just looking at what's going on around the country, it's like, guys, I don't want to do another year of online learning. I don't want to, and you're causing this.
Yeah, like if everyone had just stayed home and put on a mask in April,
Mhm.
we'd be coming out of this now
Mhm.
instead of just getting ready for endless crashing waves to whip around the country
Yep. Exactly. Endless crashing waves is
for the
exactly what
next
it feels like that
two
that we
years or
are
something.
facing. Yep, that's exactly what it feels like.
Mm.
Um, you know, and until we have a vaccine for this, like I just don't know. I have no idea what any of it looks like. I hate not knowing.
Mm.
Have you guys been getting out and doing play dates at all? We've been doing like socially distanced outside masked play dates every now and then. And it's
Yeah.
been lovely
No,
to get outside.
we have um the playgrounds are open again
Yeah, we're not
here,
doing that. But
and so we have been like meeting his a little bit just the last week or so, like 2 weeks maybe, meeting, friends at the park, and the kids will play with masks on.
Mhm.
And um
Yeah,
I mean, the
that's my
weird
happy note to end on is like at least we feel safe enough to get like our two kids together with like one other kid and just at least, change it up a little bit and get some fresh air.
Yeah, the thing that really, as long as we're talking about it, the thing that really kind of makes me uncomfortable in that situation is the little one,
Mhm.
our 2-year-old,
Yeah.
who is very smart and very outgoing, and usually very social, is now afraid of other kids.
Oh, heartbreak.
It's heartbreaking. And we'll go to the park, we'll have her little mask on, which is heartbreaking enough, and then we'll be like, "No, you can go down the slide," and she'll be like, "Daddy, there's other children." And
Oh.
this is when she's supposed to be learning how to socialize,
Mhm.
and she's learning to not socialize.
God.
And so what we're doing is we're going down. We have cousins who are older than her. I mean, they're 7 and 9. They're their first cousins, and we've decided to open up to their family.
Mhm.
My wife's sister, and um also my mom, my wife's mom, her sister, sort of that we're expanding because everybody's been quarantined. So like this week we're going and visiting some family,
Mhm.
and those are at least a couple of kids that they can play with
Yeah,
openly, and do whatever they want to do.
exactly.
But
Yeah, we've got a pod going as well.
that's awesome. But they're not 2-year-olds.
No, no.
And she's still going to be the little kid who's trying to keep up and getting beat up, and.
Ugh.
Um,
Well, just, remember that kids are resilient. They really, they will bounce back from all of this, and it's gonna take some time, absolutely, to sort of feel comfortable, but, the fact that they adjusted to this new normal so quickly, it just they'll adjust to a new normal whenever we're able to enjoy that.
my name's David Hoffman, and this is The Big Shut In. I produce the show. It's a production of Race Car Radio, racecarradio.com. If you have feedback for me, or you have a story that you think I should hear, please feel free to reach out, thebigshut-in@racecarradio.com. Race Car Radio is a division of Citizen Race Car. Applied Imagination.